Okay, so it appears that there's a reading group that's formed over Heidegger's Being and Time, and that was formed by Hyperborean Voyager and Chad African. I'm going to put a link to both of their channels. Please, people, subscribe to those people and check out the videos. I'm going to post a couple of the introductory videos that they're both posting. What I want to say is just real quickly, and I'm going to chime into this. This is a book called The Phenomenology of Internal Time Consciousness that was done by Husserl, and it was edited by Heidegger, and even has an introduction by Calvin Schrag. At any rate, in that book, what you'll find is how Heidegger comes to use Husserl against himself. That is, when Husserl makes the appeal to a kind of reduction to a transcendental ego, and he wants to bracket the natural attitude of the way that people engage with things in everyday life, and then Heidegger sort of appeals to that, there's something, I guess, more or other than would appear at first pass. And so let me see if I can't cut really quickly into some of this conversation. Okay, so in Being and Time, when it opens with the statement that, that the question of the meaning of being has been forgotten, and that we who thought we understood it no longer do. And I think part of the problem of the pre-thematized understanding of being is that we take the being of the things nearest to hand for our own kind of being. So I look around in the world and I see objects of nature. I see things in the world, or I might even think of tools and equipment. And in those cases, there seems to be a kind of being to those things. That is, there's a whatness in addition to the thatness. So in addition to the materiality that makes some object present at hand, or even in addition to the kind of equipmental totality and the references that make a tool part of a with which, and it makes a tool readiness to hand, or it has at-handedness, right, depending on the translation you're going to have there. Those two kinds of being, presence at hand or readiness to hand, those are the being of non-Dasein beings, but they're not the way that Dasein is to understand its own being. That is, Dasein's own being is misunderstood if it takes the being of beings nearest at hand for its own kind of being. And the reason I bring this book up is because what Heidegger's really doing is he's suggesting that the phenomenological notion of intentionality can be radicalized, and so he's standing with Husserl in terms of the importance of intentionality, but he's suggesting longitudinal intentionalities of temporality, that instead of having a transcendental ego sort of blasting out, like we'll call it, ego-like intentional arcs or noetic structures of noesis and noema. Instead of that, what you have is ongoing longitudinal intentionalities of what Heidegger will call retaining that awaits, or throne projection. I mean, there's different ways at different scales and levels that he's going to deal with the temporal elongation of existence. And that's why, when Dreyfus says rocks don't exist, or see, Dreyfus potentially turns it into something that still traffics in subject-object split, which is what Heidegger's trying to undercut. He's really trying to get beneath the Cartesian split, and the way that he's going to do it is to say that Dasein's being is temporality. It's care. I mean, obviously, you will say it's care, but Division 2, by the time you get to Division 2, the point is that temporality temporalizes itself in Dasein's being, that it's Dasein's temporality that is its being, right? And it's the peculiar kind of existence that humans have, right? Or I guess would say that is synonymous with humans is this kind of temporality, which is synonymous with existence. That's sort of what those terms mean. So to say that a rock doesn't exist, it's to say that it isn't caught in a self-relation to its own past. It doesn't have anxieties about its anticipated future. The fact that humans can suffer anxiety and be, I guess, open to their own death and have that be a principle of individuation that pulls one out from lostness in the they self, right? It has to do with a recognition, right, of one's temporal being rather than the kind of spatial predicated properties that you can see of a present at hand objects, or the kind of equipmental totality that gets referenced in a tool, or even the way that a tool is a projection of possibilities. The tool becomes the leading thread into Dasein's being, right? It's at first people mistakenly take being for just objective thingliness there, the there being, without realizing that the there being is always caught in a correlate of here being, right? I mean, Dasein ambiguously means being there and being here, and it, I guess, forces the non-there-ness without a here as correlate to it. At any rate, please, people, if you're interested in being in time, I don't know how much I'm going to be into this conversation. I'll see if I can find some time for it. But check out these folks who are having this. It looks like a really productive and great way to spend your time if you're interested in learning more about being in time. Okay, thanks.